Hello, hello, and good morning. Uh, out here from Sydney again. Yo, boy. Just wanted to talk a little bit today about the Max Holloway versus Charles Oliveira. Goodness, what is happening here? So we got the rematch after many years and many years, and just rewatched the fight with Max and Charles, and what looks like has happened is that Charles went for a little guard pull, and then when Max got up, Charles' shoulder was kind of gone. Charles had a moniker at that time that he is basically when the going gets tough, he kind of gives up and he stops fighting, which is obviously a broad categorization, but it seems to be like a continuous thing. So everybody's goal for the fight was to make it hard enough that basically Charles quit. So what's happened was that then we saw Charles just do his resurrection, which is I think was after the Paul Felder's fight. So Charles had a loss to Paul Felder, and Paul Felder is everybody like he's been a commentator for a minute after he's retired. Um, but he was it didn't matter who you were gonna have a rough fight with Paul Felder. Um, one of Paul Felder had a tough time. Paul Felder had to fight um a little bit of background first before I speak on Paul Felder. Paul Felder is basically like a kickboxer slash Muay Thai guy. He's obviously an MMA fighter, but his strengths were sort of um uh in that in that ball field. Now he is an awesome fighter, and he comes from a great camp, which is the Duke Rufus camp. And I'm not sure. I think Duke Rufus might have passed away. If he did, rest in peace. He was one of my favorite people, but might have to do a research after this. But I hope he's alive and I'm wrong. Okay. Leaving all that aside, well, not leaving that aside, but moving on from that point, Paul Felder had like one of the hardest resumes. This guy had to fight prime Edson Barbosa as a kickboxer for like two or three times. Like, we love the fight every time, but we're like, Paul, what are you doing? I don't know. I was never concerned, even though he gave Barbosa like very good fights, and I'm not sure of the record if he won or not. And I know I'm sidetracking, but leave me alone, right? Um, let me just say what I need to say. Um, so homeboy, aka Paul Felder, had to fight Edson Barbosa so many times to the point that I was like, I'm sick of this. I don't want to see my boy just like, even though he gives his best as he takes, but Edson just beats people like they just knock into his private house or something like that. Like he's just bringing a gun to a freaking fist fight every single time. Everything he hits you with hurts, or at least it looks like it hurts. And I'm here from my own house watching this stuff on TV, and I feel the pain of this guy. And Paul Felder is like a vampire, so he is pale as they come. I don't know, I'm talking shit about Paul Felder, this ain't even about him, but I love the guy, so please take what I say as a grain of salt. But I didn't think that you would put such a good, like, nice person. It seems to me, even though Paul Felder is a badass just as much or even more than Edson Barbosa, in my opinion, but to put that guy with Edson Barbosa almost felt like it's a punishment of some sort. Alright, leaving all that aside, alright. So, um, So he's Charles Oliveira. Back to the topic. Charles Oliveira's last loss was to Paul Felder, and it looked like we had that Charles that sort of kind of puts it in when when it gets tough. Um, Moving a little bit down the line, Charles had to fight. Just looking at his record, uh, Charles stats. Here we go. He's 36-11, by the way. After Paul Felder, he went on a tear. He fought Clay Guida, Jim Miller, Nick Lance. I don't know if I know Nick Lance very well, but Kevin Lee was really on a tear, I think, when he fought Oliveira. He also fought Tony Ferguson, but this is a Tony Ferguson after Justin Gaethje. He fought Justin Gaethje, and then he went on a ass whooping tour until he met Islam. Then he fought Islam and lost. Then he fought Benil. Then he fought Arman. He lost to Arman, obviously. And then he beat Chandler, and now he beat Mateus Gamrot, and he's back. And obviously, we all know about the loss to Taporia. Okay, so I had to go back and just have a look at what Charles tend to do, and Charles is he's amazing on the ground, and obviously he dang well know it, and he knows that many people would not want that smoke like that. Nobody wants to go on the floor with the guy. Man, and I don't blame him. The dude is outstanding. Like, why? But sorry, back sidetracking. It's a problem of mine. So Charles goes with uh, bad to lose your train of thought in a video. Charles went and fought. Sorry, Charles style. So what it seems like Charles is doing every single time is he is immediately advancing until he gets to the black line, right? So he starts at Muay Thai range, and he would use straight punches, kicks, and whatever. Then he would crash into boxing range, and he will start punching, and then after that he would crash into the clinch and then go to underhooks or some form of underhook. So he would go uh, for like an underhook on one side, and then sort of like jiu-jitsu control on the free hand. You'll see it was Islam, and Islam sort of ended up doing like some kind of judo throws, like the overhook on Charles, which is obviously by the cause of Charles underhook on Islam, and he threw him on the ground, and then like in round one. So he seems to go to that, and then once he achieved that, he would go into like a double underhook, like he will push you against the fence, and sometimes he would lead with either, if you're kicking him back, he would lead with his hips, if whatever. But he has just developed what it seems to me is the difference between the guy before that fought Felder, that fought Max Holloway, that fought all of these guys that was accused of like giving up when the going gets a little bit too tough. Mind you, he had that reputation, and he was still, and I repeat, still had like the highest finishing rate or something like that. He had like multiple records and everything. So maybe giving it up is not the case. Maybe he's putting every. Never mind. All right, that's not my business. So moving on, he would go and he would crash, and then he would grab, and either sort of start taking you back on standing or pull you down, and he doesn't mind getting it wrong because he'll fall on his back, right? Then you would see him getting into that sort of plotting and going forward. which is the closest fighter I found to that was Ilya. Ilya does it a little bit more. Like Ilya is in and out. Ilya is in and out. Oliveira is like directly in until you punch him in the face, and then he'll fall back. Like he is in until he gets to that black line. And if you're pushing him back, he would retreat all the way down to the fence. And it seems like everything sort of, if this is the octagon, and like this is, and the black line is within the octagon, he is sort of like at that last quarter, and just fighting in there. So either getting you against the fence or punching with you until you get your butt back in there. And like I said, the closest thing I found to him was Taporia in that regard, except Taporia is shorter. Taporia is basically plotting in. Not about Taporia, but that's the only similarity. So I went and watched how Max fought Taporia, and had a look at how Max fought Arnold Allen and all of that. But it looks to me like Charles' whole goal is he's gonna beat the bejeebies out of you, and he's looking for a finish, and the finish comes from a takedown against the fence. Like it's just like a percentage going higher. Like his percentage to knock you out was a head kick. It starts there, but that's very low in my opinion. Then it goes up by like another 20%. So let's assume that his chances of knocking you out was a head kick. Let's say Gaethje versus Poirier style is, let's say at 30%, right? Then he will come to the boxing range where his chance of knocking you down and basically hurting you goes up to 50%, all right, on the boxing side, because now he's going from straights to hooks to uppercuts and everything. Then then he would go in a little bit further and start putting the nastiest knees you'll see in your life, just in the middle of everything. Like you try to go forward, he will knee you. Whatever it is, he's just in that range and he's fighting you, right? So, and then he would create the crash. You will go against the fence. He will shoot in for a body lock and fight you then. So as simple as that may sound, is I'm a simple guy, so I tend to break down things in a simple manner. So as simple, I gotta remember to look at the camera, sort of like all the way up there. As simple as that may sound, um, what happens is that um, as simple as that may sound, as from a style breakdown point of view, it works, right? It works, and it seems like it's working a lot, and it's creating problems for people, is because when somebody is pushing you in, pay attention to the commentator. Oh, he's pushing you in, you gotta get some respect. He's gotta. The problem with Charles is you're never gonna get that respect, not unless he's tired. But if you're fighting him, and he's tired, this is history. This is not him. Like he's a different beast now. But you punch him, he will go on his back, and a lot of people wouldn't go into his guard after he goes on his back. Even Max said like I will get him to stand up, but I don't know. It seems like he has fully accepted whatever hits you're gonna hit him with, right? So what's that gonna do if that's the case, right? If that is the case, then what's the value of your feints? The dude is already accepting the pain. He's accepting the punches, and now your feints are not working because A, you're fighting backwards. B, you're throwing big punches to get some respect. Like go look at Poirier versus Charles Oliveira. I think it's free on YouTube. And 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 it's just like all of a sudden your whole arsenal is just shrinking because now all you're doing is keeping them off you, and you're succeeding very little, and then the pressure of it. And if you go watch the Gaethje fight, for example, Gaethje hurt him multiple times, put him on his back multiple times, and that looked like that was the future of Topuria. Except for Topuria is a much calmer, and it seems like Topuria is not concerned too much of of having the ground position, or having a weaker ground position. He got a wrestling pedigree where he can sort of fight back. But regardless, it's not about that. What I'm trying to highlight here is that your boy Oliveira, to a certain extent, is is just boxing you so much. Like, he's putting you into a smaller and a smaller box. And if you imagine a cone going in front of him, in like, so when he's looking forward, there's a triangle going in front of him. That triangle is starting very big, and then it's closing up and becoming very small. So he's pushing you back. A, they say if you're gonna get a fight off their game, you push him back. B, he is taking away a lot of your feints because he's pressuring you. And C, he's hard to knock out. He's big. He seems to have figured out basically his physical. So, and aside from his eyesight, like, the dude is probably like got great genetics, and he's been doing it since forever. And he comes from a camp. I think it's Shooter Box. Sorry, I keep reminding myself to look at the camera. It's gonna take a minute. Um, so he comes from Shooter Box, which is very famous for their hard spas, at least, and it's one of the oldest camps. So if somebody's gonna train a fighter from Brazil, it's probably gonna be these guys, because they are outstanding. I think Shooter Box is responsible for Anderson Silva start, for all of the legends that we know, maybe the Nogueiras, maybe uh uh but I could be wrong, right? So let me not go down a rabbit hole that I don't know very well. But that's the camp he comes from, and he's outstanding, right? So, and if you are used to having hard spas every single time, and you're good at that, and think Strickland, for example. Strickland spars all the time, and you saw that Connor thing when he said like, I coined the term shit sparring. So, alright. So go look at that, and he explains it a little bit better because he breaks it down in like a Twitter thing, and I'm not smart enough to know that. So another thing about Charles, that this is not my idea. This is obviously, if you made your way to here, and probably like 2.5 people are watching this, and you think of our boy Mighty Mouse, right? You get Mighty Mouse, and Mighty Mouse has said that Oliveira is very good at using the right weapon for the right range. And it seems by doing that, he is driving his chances higher and higher. So, to summarize that in a way, is Charles Oliveira is going to be going forward. He's going to be starting at kicking, punching, elbows, knees, and clinch. He's pulling you in for guillotines, or he's immediately going for the underhook, and either pulling you down to the ground, or very slowly when you're trying to defend, he's going towards your back. Alrighty. So to see all of that in one fighter, you had to really find the cream of the crops of all divisions. And then on top of that, as soon as he gets to the ground, all of his jiu-jitsu is top level. There is nothing lacking in his jiu-jitsu game at the very and on top of that, just like as an extra fu on top of that, I reckon in jiu-jitsu in general, the tall, like very long-limbed, flexible people have a ridiculous advantage. Even even in positions that technically your body shape shouldn't have that much effect because you're already at a superior position, like a mount, for example. It's still debilitating when you just run out of limb. Is you trying to pull someone into some kind of half guard and their leg is just too long, or their hips are just too flexible. And regardless, let's say I'm talking about people with shit technique. Go watch Arman trying to get from under Charles Oliveira when he got him mounted, and then think about somebody with shorter limbs and why Oliveira has given him so much trouble. So anyhow, go watch a bit of that fight. You'll see it in round one where Oliveira had him in mount, and yeah. Um. Anyhow, so the the thing is with people that seem to unravel is hopefully Charles doesn't unravel anymore. So that's good. Then we go for the submission. Like I said, he generally tend to get people in a rear naked choke. If you are getting someone in rear naked choke, that means that you are consistently going to hit to their back. And if you're going to their back and you're finishing them every time, and we're not talking about your people at your local comp or your people at, we talking about the cream of the crops, the best in the world, the people that have made it, that train jiu-jitsu for at least as long as they trade for fighting, and they've been doing it forever. And submitting those people is, yes, not probably not the hardest for like the cream of the crop, but submitting the ones that come with the same credential as a submission artist themselves, like Jim Miller, for example. Jim Miller is a very good black belt. It's ridiculous. So you're gonna have to go in Mac's side, which was the harder to break down because Max's style is more about evasive, and it's just accumulative, and it's beautiful because we love Max because he's a wonderful person. All right, so that's one side. That's Charles. So A+ on ground game, A+ on striking, maybe a C on movement, because for his style he just goes directly forward, and he seems to struggle when with either head movement, which I'm not sure why, or or because he seems to get like hit by hooks, straight punches, and everything. Go look at Poirier fight. Like everything that doesn't is not caught on his guard, it's hitting him. Um, and and that's a terrible idea. So think Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega is not, in my opinion, it's just an opinion of the guy, of a weird guy on the internet with a nice beard. I'm feeling my beard, aren't I? Um, So just the guys on the internet's opinion is that Ortega is not as a good striker as Charles Oliveira, and I think if they're the same size, same weight, you put Charles against him in a punches and kicks only, like no ground game, it's a tough day out for Ortega, and that's just an opinion of a guy on the internet. So no disrespect to anybody. That's just an opinion, and I could be wrong. MMA math doesn't work, but that's just the looks of it. So, Max Holloway. We go to Max. Ground game, we're gonna have to think of Brian Ortega. Brian Ortega goes in, get grips, get you down, and or pulls guard, which is another thing that I neglected to mention at Charles. Charles will pull guard like at a snap. Like he wouldn't care. Like now I got myself snapping. Alright, let's get so Ortega would be a great representation of Charles' ground game, right? T City is outstanding in every position, as far as like the ground game is concerned. And obviously, he got that durability factor, which is now Charles has. He just doesn't have the motion. But if he gets you down, and we saw what Max was able to do with that kind of movement. The problem is if Charles' whole game is going forward and creating that sort of pushback until you're behind the black line, that's literally Max's whole style is that he would circle to his usually left. Go look at his fight with Aldo when he was a little bit younger, and then go look at his fight with Poirier. And he would eat leg kicks, he would eat punishment, and all of that. And remember, this is bigger Max. So it's smaller Max and bigger Max, they both have cardio for days. So Max's strengths, cardio, movement, volume, which I think the volume is just a byproduct of his movement. I think the movement is a star. The movement is the cake, and the volume is the cherry on top. Even though, in my personal opinion, those two things like movement and strikes should be like are counted as one thing, but I'm no authority on this stuff. But this is just an opinion. So altogether, that makes his style very awesome. Now, Max, if we watch the Gaethje fight, he ate so many leg kicks and all of that, and it seems like that's some kind of weakness on his style because you can see it with Topuria, you can see it with Justin Gaethje, but that is very, very um like it's more a byproduct of they trying to keep Max in front of him, right? Now, we haven't really seen him hurt to the leg, so you can see, and and on top of that, this guy has so many fights, and he knows he knows about the leg kick, and he's tough as they come, and he tends to eat them, and eventually now he doesn't get hit with them as much, so he has learned from the Taporia fight, he has learned. And that's another thing is that Max, according to himself, is like his virtue or his value come from being curious, that he's always willing to learn. He got he got a very high level style that works for him, and and he's he's outstanding. Now, we haven't seen him being controlled on the ground since maybe Conor McGregor, and that was prime Conor, and in circumstances, and he's young and blah blah blah. Leave all that alone. I'm not here to make. So now we go in Charles. He's gonna break in. He's gonna come at Max. Uh, welcome, Max. I think Max will circle and cause him to reset so much that that it's gonna be tough to pin him down, or it's gonna be tough to push him towards a fence where you can get a Muay Thai clinch where you can land knees, elbows, and all that good stuff. I think Max counter, which is a movement and byproduct is the volume. Max's accuracy is ridiculous. Like he would throw so many. So so I think Max is, if we have to put the stand up part, I think Max is on top of that and he wins. I think the closest representation of the stand up is Taporia and Arnold Allen that I saw in Max's. Um, I don't know if Volkanovski would count because Volkanovski is just a more dynamic style in my opinion than Taporia and then Charles. Not to say anything about their style, is just in my opinion that um Volkanovski kind of tailor the fight to you than to his style, while Taporia will tailor the fight to his style and have you fighting almost his fight. But leave that alone. That's for a breakdown on Taporia, which we got someone coming down. So Max wins on the strike. Max wins on the distance control because simply of the clashing style. Second off, Oliveira goes goes forward and 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 he goes into the clinch. Now, I don't think I've seen Max do a lot of clinch work, but I think he is very good at it in the sense that he doesn't entertain it as much. He will just fight back, peace out, come at me, dog, right? So at least I haven't necessarily see him like go to a clinch and just stay there for the clinch. Like I've seen him get taken to the fence and then him breaking off and going away. All right. So distant control Max, clinch game probably Charles, but I think it's also Max as in getting out of the clinch with Charles, because Charles when he clinches you, a lot of people you'll see him doing Dustin Poirier. Like when he comes into that elbow range, he would immediately jump on like a pseudo guillotine, or he will get you as like one of those like Thai plums with a good knee for good measure. Charles would grab under your gloves at times. Anyways, so Max, i.e. Max with the movement, with the volume, with the accuracy, he counters the forward pressure, he counters the clinch game, and by doing these two things as a byproduct is Max is hitting you all the time. Think Diaz brothers, right? People are happy to be hit by the Diaz brothers until all of a sudden, like, oh my goodness, my brain doesn't want to do this no more. Neither do I, right? So I'm just getting pushed up and beaten up by these guys. Oh my God, I've been rattling for 30 minutes. Let me try and conclude this. So I think Max was the was was a was a with the volume, with the counter pressure, which is a byproduct of the movement, the volume, and the countering of Oliveira's distance and clinch game, was simply moving, was being himself, and that's I think what's gonna make it hard for Charles. Is Max does not have to adjust to Charles' style as much as Max has to just be Max, and it's already a bad matchup for Charles. Now, as far as the ground and submission attacks, I think that Charles will probably have to hurt Max to finish him in a submission. I don't think we've seen Max in that much trouble. I don't know if Max has lost by submission before. I have to look, but it doesn't seem. I think if you hurt Max, you need kind of dehydrated Max. Second off, uh, you need him to be moving into something which he's very good at avoiding. Uh, Oliveira obviously has power, so I think to a certain extent that Oliveira doesn't get the submission unless he's hurt Max, which I think is very unlikely that he gets to do. I know I could be very wrong and eat those words, but that's the beauty of it. So, okay, wait, like my short game is weak, man. Um, so all right, so we're gonna say that at the moment, Max Max counted a submission with basically his bread and butter, which is his movement, accuracy, and volume of strike, and all of that is just one thing. Clinch game, I think Max is got the frame, so he's a similar frame. So Charles doesn't get that much leverage of having longer limbs on controlling bits and parts. Max has a kind of the same advantage, and 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 Max is ready. Like, in my opinion, Max has been ready for a very long time. I feel like Max has been disrespected a little bit, and I'm a fan of his. Like, I don't like Ilya Taporia, and half the reason I don't like Ilya Taporia is because of Max, and now the 20% is Volkanovski, and then the rest of it is, well, that's it. Maybe about 70%. Uh, so I think Max wins this. I think Max breaks down Charles by round two or round three. I think the most likely scenario, in my opinion, is TKOs on the ground. What will happen is Max will hurt him multiple times, and I think on the fifth or the sixth time, in round two maybe, if it depends on how well Max makes his reads. I think it's gonna be an easier read for Max once like the first couple minutes go past, and I think he will pick up because Max used to build up over a period of time. Now it's like he's from basically say go. He's onto his game, which is was in my opinion a lot of the reason why he got beaten by Poirier so many times is that he would like build up as opposed to just go there and stay. Anyhow, so I think Max round two or round three. I think most likely scenario is by ground and pound. If I have to bet on this fight, I would say Max by TKO in round two, and that is my opinion. And I could be wrong. The thing about this fight is it's almost like these two guys I did not want them to fight, but now that the fight is happening, and that's because I like frankly I love both of them. I just happen to like Max more, but if I'm being objective and and to the prattle I just made for the last 30 minutes, like that's my reasoning, and for that and for that exactly is I think Max Holloway, aka the blessed train. I'm definitely on that. Like choo choo, my mother effer or whatever. But thank you. This is your boy Mess out from Sydney again, and hope you guys have a lovely day. And I gotta work on an intro, and I gotta work on making these things a lot more consistent. But love you long time. Peace.